How's it going? I see that my YouTube channel has been pretty quiet. I think I've recorded 2 videos this year, and today is the 2nd of July. I was in an ayahuasca ceremony last weekend, and one of the many directions or guidances was to... Is guidance a word? Guidances? I don't think it is. Was to communicate more, speak. I was initially told in ayahuasca 2 years ago to start a YouTube channel, or not necessarily to start a YouTube channel, but to communicate. The part of my role here, my work, is to communicate, to speak and to write. And that I learn from that too. It helps me to organise my thoughts and process and move forward. I suppose part of the reason as well I have been quiet is I've developed the course for women. It's a 6-week course. I'm working with women at the moment. It's going very well. Anyone can do it from anywhere in the world. Results are very positive. People are progressing. So that's very fulfilling, satisfying, purposeful, great to see, and great to be of purpose and of use to people. And also I've been continuing that work really on myself, that, you know, my life hasn't changed very much in the last couple of years. I still live in my car. I've lived in my car in September it'll be 2 years. Partially out of choice in the sense that rents are very high in Dublin, and I don't want to be up to my neck trying to pay for a place that I don't want to live in. Anywhere that I would like to live, because I have grandiose ideas. Anywhere I would want to live would cost way too much money, or more money than I can afford. So I'm not prepared to do that. I prefer my own independence, my own space, and my own freedom, really, to carry on this journey. And at some point I might be moved to change direction. I would like to obviously live in a nice place, in a warm country. So these things are there's a less need to escape my situation. There's far more acceptance of where I am. And the realization too that, you know, as I've talked about in other videos and articles, that whatever challenges we're presented with again and again until we evolve past them. They might take different forms. It's an easy one with relationships. If you've been in a lot of relationships and you look back, if you take an inventory of that person, you know, there are positives and there are negatives. Most likely you'll see that there is a thread throughout each of these people, that they're all very similar. I did this years ago, maybe 12 or 13 years ago. I'd been single a long time, and I wrote an inventory of all the women in my life, sisters, mother, any women I work closely with, ex-girlfriends, and I realised they were all the same person, pretty much. They had all the same traits. You know, she might look different, sound different, have a different job, and I'd think, oh, she's really different, and she was actually the same. They were all the same characters. And as I realised what I was drawing in and attracting, I began to kind of work through that, and basically met someone quite different, and that resulted in a 10-year relationship which ran its course and ended about 2 years ago. Still in contact, lovely woman. My point is that for me, say, living in the car, or for people in difficult jobs or difficult relationships or whatever, the modern spirituality worlds will say, get away, he's toxic, it's toxic. I don't have any time, and I have very little tolerance for that. Anything that's dangerous or that's too much, I would suggest get away or step away and get some perspective and space. If it's not too much, especially if we have tools, we can actually just work through that. We can upgrade ourselves so that the situation is less stressful. My situation from a year ago or 2 years ago is almost identical. I still work in the same bits of jobs that I do. I work with people, but I also have other jobs, day jobs, that are not full-time, that just keep me alive. They're exactly the same. I obviously still live in my car. I don't have a lot of money. I kind of just do the same thing. There's very little change, but my perspective of it all has changed greatly. And I would be more aware that I'm conquering my situation. And these challenges were presented for me to overcome, not to run away from. There would have been ways out. I mean, I could have got out of the car and got into an apartment, or, you know, taken some job that I really didn't want. There are ways around these things. But something in me didn't want that. I wanted to go through it. Although, I complained year one certainly, and into year two, on and off. Hello, Susan. Susan is the woman who's heard an awful lot of my complaints over the last couple of years. But there's not much you can do. You kind of just have to kind of get through it. And then I suppose as I developed, or as I became aware of the tools, or what I would use now, what I can work through with, I'd have more awareness that this is now completely, entirely my responsibility. I've created this situation in order to evolve past it, in order to work through it and gain the wisdom, the experience and the strengths on the other side of it. So if we put ourselves in a challenging situation, it's the human ego and the human mind chooses to see that just as a challenging situation. My relationship is dead, or the person's abusive, or I hate my job, or whatever it is. That's all we see, and we think, well, if I can get to faraway fields, they'll be greener, I'll be happier. What we don't seem to see, or what the ego doesn't show to us, is if I can overcome this situation, if I can stand in this job or this relationship or this car that I can't stand in, free of any anger or shame or fear or terror or racing mind, then I've conquered that situation. I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I have more courage, I have more awareness. Where do I want to go now? So I suppose I aim to live my life like that. I don't want to be pushed by the wind or by my fears. I'm afraid to go to this country because it's dangerous, I'm not going to go there. I'm afraid to go out at night because it might be dangerous. I'd be afraid living in my car, so I can't do that. I better work in this shit job that I hate. I'm afraid to whatever. Or I'm angry those people are toxic and dangerous, so I'm not going to go there. I don't want to live like that. I want to be free to go wherever I want to go, to overcome whatever situation. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to go into war zones or go into, go looking for trouble, but to be free. The outer world is just a mirror reflection of my own consciousness, as I've said many times. And the article "There Is No Spoon," which incidentally has reached, I think it's close to 100,000 views now on YouTube. It's not on my channel, it's on the Higher Self channel. And I still get regular comments, positive comments on it. So I discovered that over a year ago, that these difficult people that may enter my life, could be someone just in traffic or someone in a supermarket, or could be people close to me, that they are just reflecting back to me who I am. So to get away from them, you can't get away from yourself. It can be called a geographical. We're just running to another country or another job or another place, trying to get away from all the stuff, the toxicity which is within ourselves. So to stand and face that and make peace with that, it really is the test. It's like, do you want to be free? How much do you want to be free? Or do you just want a comfortable life? Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I suppose for me, that idea ran its course, and from a higher self perspective, my higher self was steering the ship, and it was steering it into facing all this stuff. Left to my own conscious mind, I wanted to be comfortable, certainly. I'll just read a section. I bought a book a few weeks ago called The Power of Kabbalah by, I can't pronounce his name, Yuda Berg. And this is as a result of, been watching some films by Guy Ritchie, who I've talked about before, very intelligent man. I'd recommend the King Arthur he did from last year, and I'd recommend a few watches on it. It's very interesting. There's a lot of esoteric stuff in it, working with the snake facing the shadow. It's a terrible film, in my opinion. Now, that's a bit harsh. It's just not my cup of tea. I'm not really into action movies or that kind of thing, but the story of it is brilliant. And another movie by him called Revolver, which is about facing our ego, is a brilliant film. Really hard to watch, really unsatisfying, but again, the story and the theory of it is amazing, is brilliant. So as a result of that, I bought this book. As I said in that article, I didn't look at the contents or anything. I'm not familiar with Kabbalah, I'm not necessarily interested in it, but I had just I found the book. Usually I follow my instinct to find a book. I buy a book. That's it, and then I read it. I don't go reading 100 reviews or trying to find out what it's about. If my gut tells me to buy it or to read it, well then I do. So I bought it, and I bought it along with a second book, a different book at the time. I go to collect. I get a text that the book is ready for collection. I go to collect it. I don't know which one it is. I'm driving away from this place. I tear open the packet, and I see that it's this book, the Kabbalah book. And I'm a bit disappointed because I didn't want to read this one that evening. I wanted to read the other one. So while I'm driving, I flick through the pages, and out of nowhere, pages stop at a chapter called The Mirror, which obviously grabbed me after all my work on the reflection and the mirror. So I'm going to read that. It's a page and a half, very short. This is from The Power of Kabbalah. Suppose there was a mirror that reflected all your negative character traits, all the reactive instincts you came to this world to transform. Now suppose you smashed the mirror and broke it into 1,000 little pieces. Each piece would reflect a different negative characteristic of your nature. Now suppose you scattered all those pieces all over the place. Guess what? All the negative people in your life, all the negative situations and obstacles that you confront, all the things that you see wrong in others are merely additional pieces of that mirror. Each fragment represents a different reflection of your own character. When you fix and transform a particular piece of your character, a fragment of mirror will reflect this transformation. You will begin to see the positive aspect of other people. Situations will begin to change for the better. Remember that everything in your life is there for one reason and one reason only, to offer you the opportunity to transform. Transformation is the only way to effect positive change in your life and in this world. Stop wasting your energy finding fault in others. Start the transformation within. Start looking for the uncomfortable situations in your life and avoiding the easy routes. The light will be found only in the rough waters of your life. Why? Because choppy seas trigger reactions. Sure, it will be turbulent for a while. You'll be buffeted from all sides at first. But if you remain certain that you are only being tested, and if you don't react, the seas will calm down quickly, and that's when you'll come to know the power of Kabbalah. That's when you'll experience the extraordinary light that has been trying to reach you and give you everything you've ever desired since time began. So that's that. That's kind of been my own experience over the last few years of seeking the choppy waters, of seeking the shadow, seeking the uncomfortable stuff in my life, consciously or unconsciously, and then making peace with it and working through it. And that's pretty much what my course is. It's steps of how to love those aspects and embrace those aspects. They are my creation. You know, we do manifest everything in our lives, not just the nice things we like. All the challenging things we're manifesting and drawing into to teach us. So it's time really that we take responsibility for all those things. You know, if you don't like Donald Trump, if you don't like the war in the Middle East, if you don't like whatever, traffic, whatever it is, if it brings up a charge and a vibration in you, that is within you. It's nothing to do with Donald Trump or the Middle East or wherever else. It's you. It's your vibration that you need to nurture and integrate, and it will continue to come back in many different forms throughout our lives or many lifetimes until we finally actually take responsibility and address what that is. So that's that. I hope that was of use. Enjoy the sun and don't wear any sun cream.